Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Self-Ruled Podcast. I am your host, Hannah Holden. How are you feeling today? I hope you're having a good morning, good afternoon, evening, wherever you are, and thanks for joining. So I'll get right to the point. This episode is really going to be geared towards people who are wanting to make a career change. Either you're in a position now and it's not a good fit and you're wanting to make a move, or maybe you are currently not working and you're looking for your next opportunity. I will also add on that this is really for people who maybe have tried some different jobs and you're looking for more than just getting that next job. I understand that sometimes we just need a job. Sometimes we just need to get those bills paid. But I think there can also be a cost that comes with when we just jump into that next role without really evaluating whether or not it's a good fit. Because if we're going to stay there for a while and it's not a good fit, that becomes just another problem. We've just kind of moved the problem somewhere else. So I have gone through many career transitions, military transition, business transitions. So I just want to share a little bit about what I've learned on my journey, and hopefully it'll be helpful to someone listening. So when I got out of the Marine Corps after 5 years, I had gone into the Marine Corps right after high school, and I got out of the Marine Corps. I had no civilian experience. I mean, I had a few jobs in high school, went into the Marine Corps, got out, and I had no civilian work experience. I did go get my degree, but I really didn't know what I was doing. So I think this can be the case for people who are coming out of the military or maybe some other sort of transition, and, building a career is new to you. So it was new to me, and I really didn't understand what I was doing. I didn't know what I was looking for. I didn't know who I was and what would really suit me. Funny fact, I remember when I got out and I was just applying to random jobs, and then after I finished my degree, I was still just applying to random positions. And I remember back then thinking, oh, project manager, that sounds like something I would like. I like projects. I like variety. As I got further into my career and realized what a project manager does, that is probably the last thing I should be doing with my career. So I really didn't have the knowledge. I wasn't informed. And at that stage in my journey, coming out of the military, I was struggling to translate my experience or even understand how my experience could translate into my next career. And I was throwing stuff at the wall. I would apply to so many random jobs. I remember the number of resumes I had on my computer, like on my desktop screen, because I was all over the place. And all of these different types of positions required me to emphasize different skills on my resume. So I would rewrite my resume. So I have rewritten and revised resumes many, many times. And honestly, it's exhausting. So I used to just throw stuff at the wall. And then because I was throwing stuff at the wall and there was no clear alignment with my experience to show that I would be qualified, I got rejected from jobs a lot. Of course, that didn't help my self-esteem. And I was exhausted from that. I have gone through this a couple of times earlier in my career. And at some point, I started to catch on. I started to learn. I also started to learn more about myself, but I realized that it was going to be more about quality over quantity. Yes, of course, you do have to sometimes go after a large number of opportunities to find that one position. But the quantity that I was applying for was wild, and it was more so that I lacked focus and the scope was far too big. I was casting just way too wide of a net. So the first thing that I would say, if you're in a job search and you find yourself doing that, you're just kind of all over the place and just kind of have that mindset of looking for someone to take you on, my advice would be to really get clear on you. And I think this is counterintuitive for a lot of job seekers because you're under pressure to find that next position. And this can get us in a very scarcity type mindset where unfortunately we start to give others a lot of our power. And that's how the whole, self-ruled in your career thing comes in, because it's really about reclaiming your power during this process. And so I know a lot of people who are job searching might feel like, oh, I don't have time to slow down and, But the reality is that I always think about this expression. Actually, this comes from my Marine Corps days on the rifle range. And there's this expression that slow is smooth and smooth is fast. And so sometimes when you're job searching, you actually just need to slow down for a second and really get clear on you. So get clear on you. And the where I would start with getting clear on you is really getting clear on your values. So I know I've talked about personal values many times in this podcast, but what is important to you? What is most important to you? Because if you go even if you get a position and you go take that position and it's clashing with your values, you're not going to be somewhere that you're going to want to stay. So get clear on your values, reassess your strengths, reassess what you bring to the table in terms of your best skills, the things that you are better at than anybody else. Consider your purpose. I'm not going to go too deep into purpose on this episode because I talked about it on other episodes, but really revisit what is it that you believe you are here to do. And sometimes we won't admit this to ourselves because we're so in that mindset of let me find a job. But this is where you got to slow down and really think about what is it that I really feel I'm here to do, here to offer. And this is really tied to just being your true self. So really the question is, what is authentic to me? What comes natural to me? What is authentic? And then some of the other things when it comes to getting clear on you would be to think about what are some of your non-negotiables when it comes to your next role. Thinking about maybe it's, there's all this debate around remote or in person. Maybe it's around your schedule. Maybe it's around work-life balance or flexibility. So really just taking a step back and don't worry about what's realistic or practical in the job market. Instead, try to block all of that out for a little bit and just get clear with yourself. What would be your non-negotiables in your next role? And I would say be a little bit delusional here, because one thing I've learned is that oftentimes people are willing to work with us. If there's something that we want, whether it be we really want this vacation time or we really want this flexibility, or we really don't want to work full time, we want to work part time. Believe it or not, when you get really clear on what it is that you want and what's going to serve you best, then when you go into those conversations, a lot of times when you're the right fit and people like you, they're more willing to be flexible and work with you. So the other thing that I would recommend doing is explore. And I think sometimes because when people are looking for that next role, they're just trying to get that next role. They're kind of maybe in a little bit of a panic, or just like I said, throwing stuff at the wall, that they don't take the time to really slow down and explore. And that exploration can be the self-exploration that I was talking about, with the values, your strengths, your purpose, your non-negotiables, what you want your lifestyle to be. That's one piece of the exploration, but also exploring what's out there, talking to people, having conversations, setting up informational interviews, and really just seeing what's out there and becoming more informed. I think about what I was saying about, oh yeah, I'd probably like project management. Maybe if I had asked someone, okay, what does a project manager do? Then I would have realized, I don't know when this was, I was probably like 24 or something, that's not the job for me. The other thing that I highly recommend is to be aware of the things that you're curious about. So as you're exploring, if something just kind of has this little glimmer, catches your attention, and you're like, oh, that's interesting, I'm curious about that. That is usually a cue. Your intuition is trying to tell you something, and sometimes it doesn't make sense. Maybe it's something that you've never done before, but there's some part of you that is curious about it. And I think when we have that little bit of curiosity or that little bit of desire for something, it's really a sign that we know we're capable of that, or we know we'd be good at that. And I remember one example of this for me was after I went to grad school, I was working at a brewery for a while, and I was going through yet another job search, and I came across this posting to be an executive speaking coach. I had never been a coach. I had never trained people on public speaking, but I had a lot of public speaking experience from when I was in the military. And I think the thing that attracted me to it was just this empowering other people or helping other people. And I didn't know it yet that was going to be such a big part of my career, but something just attracted me to it and I gave it a shot. So sometimes it's just being aware of those things that just say, oh, you know what, that's interesting. I could do that. So if you have that kind of reaction to opportunities, I would trust that and maybe see if you can learn more, because a lot of times curiosity is where it starts, and we're really smart. We're really actually do know a lot about ourselves if we really tune in and listen. So I said, go talk to people, explore. And, as you're defining these things that interest you, maybe it's the job itself, the skills you'd be using. Maybe it's the mission of the organization that you're applying for, whatever it is. As you're starting to shape and define what you want in your mind, I want to encourage you to not get wrapped up around how that's going to happen, because this is where we kill our dreams very quickly. So let's say that you do the self-exploration, you talk to people, and you're like, you know what? I really want to, actually, I really think I would be good working in PR and, or being a spokesperson, or, maybe you have some idea and you don't know how it's going to happen. You don't know when it's going to happen. You're not even sure how to get there. But just because you don't know those things doesn't mean you can't begin to define a vision for yourself. Like I said, this is where a lot of people kill their own dreams, because they have an idea. They intuitively know something that they would be really good at, something that would come naturally to them. But then what happens is that their inner critic immediately throws the hands up and is like, wait a second, how are you going to do that? How is that realistic? You've never done that before. And so that voice of our inner critic kicks in and starts to hold us back. But if you can stay in the place of, you know what, this is what I'm interested in, this is the direction I'd like to go, and stay in that place without shutting down your ideas, you will be amazed how you will begin to find the path to where it is you see yourself going. And it will come in the form of, now that you're aware of the path, the direction that you want to go, now that you're aware of that, you will begin to notice a lot of things that are meant to help you find that path. So this could be, now that you're aware of the direction you want to go, you're noticing opportunities, you're noticing mentors, you're noticing all of the things that are going to support you and help you get there. So something else that was really big on my journey was I had to give myself permission. A lot of times when people are trying to build a career, they're looking for that next role, they're looking for someone else to give them permission, accept them. And I mean that when you're applying for jobs, you might have the mindset of, oh, I hope they like me, or I hope they think I'm a good fit for the role, or I hope I get this. But sometimes we just give way too much power to the company, the hiring manager, whatever. And what you want to do instead, I would encourage you to do, is to give yourself more power, give yourself permission. So in practical terms, sometimes people are waiting for, and this, you could even just be doing this in your current company. Maybe you want to stay at your company, but you really want to move into a different role, or you want to get promoted. A lot of times we're just waiting for someone else to give us permission, to hand us the opportunity to say, hey, I think you could move into this role. And we don't take charge enough. We don't take charge of our career. So giving yourself permission to set your sights on what it is that you really want, and not wait for someone else to hand you the opportunity. Give yourself permission to move towards it. So really, one of the big things here is investing in yourself. So this is what you can do when no one's giving you the opportunity to move in the direction you want to go. You can invest in yourself, your personal development, your professional development. Because for me, for example, when I knew where I wanted to be, there was nobody giving me an opportunity in the space I wanted to be in. So instead of, trying to find someone to see my future potential, I invested that energy back into myself. Okay, so thinking to myself, what does that person need to be able to do? What skills does she need? What certifications does she need? And that's really like taking charge of your career and investing in yourself. I have taken many courses, many certifications. I've hired coaches. So it'll be different for everyone. But instead of waiting for that next job to give you the opportunity or your current company to develop you, you are taking the reins and deciding how you want to be developed, how you want to develop yourself. And I'm amazed at how rare this really is, people taking the reins in their own career and life and doing this. Like I said, a lot of people are just waiting to see if their company will send them to a training or develop them. You, especially if you have a stable job, you should be investing. Okay, I don't want to say you should. I don't want to tell you what you should do because that doesn't sit well with me. But I think it would be helpful to take some of that salary or those wages and invest back into yourself. It is the best investment you will ever make, especially if you're investing in yourself in the direction of where you want to go. You're not just randomly spending money on courses, but when you have a vision, you have a focus area, you're investing in yourself to become the person that can have that or can be that, and not waiting for someone else to give it to you. So I think I kind of said this, but really just taking radical responsibility for your career and your development. I talked about creating a vision for your future. So the next piece I feel like is once you've defined what it is you want and you're developing yourself in the direction of what it is you want, you're really going to be in a position to attract opportunities. So the key here is to stay aligned with what you've decided you want. Doesn't mean you can't be flexible if opportunities come along and it ends up being the right fit at the time. But I think a lot of times what happens is we set our sights on a direction we feel we really want to go. We feel it's aligned, but then we self-abandon because something comes along and we don't trust our knowing. We don't trust our intuition. We don't trust that it's possible. So we might abandon our vision when something else comes along. Now, of course, sometimes we have to make compromises because we have bills. But I think a lot of times people play it too safe and they abandon themselves when maybe if they had aligned, just stayed in alignment with what they really wanted and held out a little bit longer, they could have attracted an opportunity that aligned with what they really want. And of course, your life circumstances will dictate this. But if you're, for example, if you're already in a role, you're working, you have a way to pay your bills, this is where you can be a little bit more selective and really set your sights on what you want and begin to attract from that place. Another piece of this puzzle is that you have to believe in what you're selling. So in the case of the job market, building your career, you are essentially selling yourself, whether you want to admit that or not. And so you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your vision, your purpose, your capabilities. If you don't believe in it, how can you expect someone else to believe in it? And I realize that this sometimes can take time to build that confidence. We have to have certain experiences. We even have to have people take chances on us. We have to take risks. All of those things build our confidence. But I think here we give other people too much power. Again, waiting for them to believe that we can do it, waiting for them to give us a chance. And we're not putting enough energy and effort into building self-belief. And that is something you can do no matter what circumstance you're in. If you are currently working for a company, if you're displaced and maybe looking for your next role, once you figure out your vision and what it is that you want, doing things to build self-belief. And this comes back to a lot of the things that I've already mentioned. So if you set your sights in a certain direction, you will build self-belief when you invest in it, when you invest in yourself. Invest in the skills that it's going to take to get there. You will build self-belief when you take action. So a lot of times we get stuck. We don't want to move forward. the fear and doubt creep in, but you will build self-belief when you take action, when you show up as the person who has that role that you want. When you start carrying yourself that way, speaking that way, whether it be networking or interviews. So all of those things are things that you can work on even if you don't have that role yet. You can practice in interviews, you can practice in networking, and really just with your thoughts and your feelings and how you speak about yourself to other people. Okay, coming towards the end here, almost done. So when you do get in interviews or situations where decision makers might be around, or maybe it's networking, I want to suggest that you focus on whether it's an aligned opportunity that brings mutual value, not whether or not they want you. And this could go for any type of relationship, romantic relationships, business relationships, job interviews. A lot of times we get so caught up in, do they like me? Am I answering this correctly? Did I do it right? Did I say that right? And the inner critic and the perfectionism kicks in. But when that happens, you're not present. The ability to be present is a superpower in life. The ability to be present in interviews, in business, in relationships. Giving people your presence takes the pressure off. It's not about you. I know that sounds crazy because it's a job interview, but it's not about you. It's about being present and tuning in to that person that you're speaking with. And it's actually about both of you. It's about both of you understanding more about what each other brings to the table and making a mutual decision on whether or not it's a good fit. So I don't like interviews where the interviewer is interviewing me in a way where it's like they're testing me, like there's a right answer and a wrong answer. Personally, I feel like when you become more empowered in your career journey, you realize that this is me and either we align or we don't. Now, of course, there might be some professions where there technically is a right answer and you may have to take assessments to show your technical expertise, but I'm talking more about negotiating your value. I think it's Brene Brown that says something to the effect of don't negotiate your value. So stand on it. Stand on what you bring to the table. Stand on your perspectives when they ask you these questions in the interviews. And really come with the mindset of curiosity that, hey, we're both here to learn more about each other and see if this is a good fit. And sometimes I will even use that language. I haven't applied for any jobs lately because I have my business, but sometimes I will even use that language in my emails, like looking forward to learn more and see if this is a good fit, so you can take your power back just because they're the ones with the job. They need you just as much as you need them. They need someone who's a great fit just as much as you need a role that's a great fit. So just some things to keep in mind, and appreciate you listening. I hope that this was helpful for somebody out there. I have a few friends right now who are going through career transition, and I've been there so many times. I know it can be tough and it can really erode our self-confidence and our self-esteem, but just please do me a favor and remind yourself, if you have to, sit down and write down all of the things that you've accomplished and really remind yourself you've done a lot. You have a lot of experience. You have a ton to bring to the table. So remind yourself of that as much as you need to. And don't be afraid to put yourself first in this process. Don't be afraid to really look at what it is you want and honor that in this process. All right. Thank you. See you next time.